Meet Serena, your virtual companion for emotional support. The ultimate safe space to discuss your thoughts, your fears, and the ups and downs of daily life. Start your free trial today at serena.chat.
Am I the asshole for not wanting my boyfriend's friends to stay at our AITA because he won't let my sister stay? My 29 female boyfriend, 34 male, and I have recently gotten into an argument over my sister being able to stay with us. My sister, 30 female, and her daughter just left a really bad relationship and needed somewhere to stay to get back on their feet. I asked him several times over the course of a week, just checking his temp on how he still felt about it. He assured me at least 3 times that no matter what, she and my niece could stay with us. I was worried because he had still never met my sister in person. Just spoken to her over the phone. Well, they recently met in person and my boyfriend did not have the best time. Apparently he tried to have several conversations with my sister that led to her telling him that he was overreacting to her situation and why she was leaving her husband. She later told me she felt like my boyfriend treated her like a child. Like every decision she made was wrong or bad unless it was his suggestion. My boyfriend seemed to think my sister is too stubborn to help. That's when he retracted his offer for her to stay. He feels that she will put us in danger, though she has never put me in danger before. And that she will need too much therapy. He also feared that we would have to take care of her daughter more than her. It broke my heart and hers because he had promised nothing would change his mind. Now my sister is facing eviction because she has not been allowed to work for 4 years and is struggling to find a job now. Plus has a 2-year-old baby that's not old enough for most free daycare or preschools in her area. We don't know what she will do. Only days after my boyfriend changing his mind. He mentions his friend is coming to town and will need somewhere to stay for when she is here. They have a sexual past and she also does not like me. And she's supposed to stay for 2 weeks. I told my boyfriend no. That we had an opportunity to help someone who really needed it and that he ripped away her haven because he didn't like how little she will listen to him. But his bestie who he has mentioned as hot, who he has slept with while she was dating someone years ago, and who does not like me can stay in my home. Knowing that she makes me uncomfortable and knowing how I feel about her as a person. He said it's different because his friend doesn't need as much help. I said I know because his friend is loaded and could easily get a hotel or Airbnb. There is no reason she has to stay here, which is why I'm saying no. He thinks that I am retaliating against his decision. Honestly, if it was any other person I would have hesitantly said okay. But the fact it is her, and she makes it known how she doesn't like me by flat out ignoring me half the time. It changes it for me. Of all people it had to be her over my sister? Still I try to be self-aware, and if I am the asshole then I will of course apologize. But am I wrong for not wanting his little bestie here after he changed his mind about my sister? Edit. As I was reading your comments my boyfriend approached me to talk about the matter further. And as I am typing this I am crying because I now know that he was right in his decision. But wrong for keeping this information from me. First and foremost, his little friend is not staying with us. There seemed to be confusion that I was just gonna go with that. Hell nah. But furthermore he was keeping key info from me as to why he changed his mind because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. Apparently it wasn't just about the suggestions, and convos about her stuff and safety. While I was out grabbing food for us he saw her in her room do a line of some substance. I did not believe him at first, quite literally told him to prove it to me then. And he showed me pictures he snuck of the drawer later that day. I honestly don't know what to say. She's been sober for 7 months. But how long has she been lying to me about this? I still don't know if I fully believe it. He's saying that their biggest argument was over him seeing her do that and her doubling down and saying it was fine and he didn't know anything. She does have a past with drug use, but up until 20 million ago. I thought she'd been clean for months. She hasn't acted differently. Fuck. Edit. There are some people who feel like I was misleading by me calling her my sister because she is not a blood relative. Her parents lost custody of her when she was 12 and my parents took her in. Since that day my entire family has referred to her as daughter, sister. I have other bio-sisters, niece, cousin. I was accused of trying to mislead with the term sister. However, I just don't consider her a best friend at this point. She's been my sister since I was 11 and I've never referred to her as a best friend. If this changes your stance on things that's understandable though. Just thought I'd clarify that if it bothered more than just the few commenters. Not the asshole, but do you really want to be in a relationship with someone who would refuse to help your sister and nibbling because they didn't agree with everything he said? My boyfriend seemed to think my sister is too stubborn to help. That's when he retracted his offer for her to stay. He feels that she will put us in danger. This makes no sense. Your relationship is very one-sided. Think long and hard about whether you want to stay in it. He doesn't want your sister to stay because he needs the space for his side chick to stay over. Not the asshole. Why are you with this guy? How come your sister wasn't allowed to work? And you really need to rethink the whole relationship. Not the asshole. Regardless of your sister, if his friend has that much money and wants to stay with you, it sounds like she wants to be close to him. If having her around makes you uncomfortable, you have every right to say no. Am I the asshole because I don't want to visit my family anymore? I, 39F, moved to Europe nearly 8 years ago and got married, 2015. I have a nice job and my wife, 45F, and I live comfortably, 1 cat, no kids. Just the way we always wanted it. It's expensive to fly back home, Texas, Tennessee, but I've done it twice since. The plane ticket alone for my wife and I is up to €1,000 each. Not to mention the cost of a hotel, something we choose for ourselves to have space, food, other expenses. My sister doesn't work, and had a baby in 2018 and we went to Texas to visit for 2 weeks. It was great because I became an aunt for the first time and got to see my sister who I hadn't seen in several years at this point. My mom also flew in during this time from Tennessee. I have always begged my sister or my mom to come visit me in Europe. I want to show them the life I've made for myself here, teach, show them the culture, and admittedly, just feel the excitement of having them travel to see me. They've always said things like, "One day it'll happen." My sister's excuse has always been that she has a young kid and can't just make spontaneous plans and travel. My mom's excuse is that she can't handle an international flight. She does have flight anxiety, but somehow she manages the 2-3 flights to Texas a few times a year. Keep in mind my sister didn't have a baby the first few years I lived here. 2023 comes and my sister had her second child in June. At this point, I doubt she will ever visit. My mom already made her yearly trip to Texas and could seemingly care less about what's going on in my life. I've been here 8 years and my mother doesn't even own a passport. I've even encouraged her to get one at my own cost in the case of an emergency. She's just not interested. My sister and her husband do have passports. I've pulled back from my family because of this. It was planned that we fly to Texas next year to meet my second niece, but I've cancelled that trip. I'm tired of the effort being one-sided. It's also incredibly expensive. Mostly my heart isn't into it anymore because it honestly feels like I've been put on the back burner. The only time we really chat now is when it's about my sister's kids. Our family chat is nothing else but conversation about my sister's family. I throw a pic of my cat in there every now and then and the engagement is the bare minimum of a virtual heart. My phone doesn't ring as much anymore. My private texts go unanswered most times or the replies I do get seem mundane. I've stopped initiating communication from my end because what's the point? My wife thinks I need to approach it differently because I'm being a little selfish and unfair. She does understand my side and has expressed that, but she thinks canceling the trip next year is an overreaction. Am I the asshole because I don't want to go anymore? Edit. Added that my sister is a corrected spelling errors. Second edit. Some people keep bringing up the financial burden that my family might have coming to visit me. I never said either of them were struggling in that sense, so please stop assuming they can't afford it. Both can. It's not about money or time, but rather about desire and effort. They both have expressed repeatedly that they want to. I don't know when that time will come at this point, if ever. Also, I understand the few that are concerned that my mother has anxiety when flying and feel that I'm overlooking that. She can fly and she does multiple times a year, but she just gets extremely nervous. The idea of an international flight doesn't excite her, but it doesn't prevent her either. She has said she is willing to tackle it. She just hasn't. Some people took what I initially wrote and made me out to be a monster that wants to put a small, terrified old lady on a long flight against her will. My own mother would laugh at that. Hopefully this clarifies that. Lastly, me moving abroad was not with the expectation that I would be dropped like a hot potato. We all knew our family dynamic would change, but to this degree? Can't say I saw it coming. I have expressed to them before that I feel like things have changed between us, but those conversations tend to only improve things short term. No assholes here. An international flight is different to a national flight, and a flight with children is difficult compared to just adults. not to mention it will be more expensive for them. I get it sucks, but it often is part of moving abroad to another continent. I speak from my own family experience. You're not wrong for not wanting to visit, but neither are they for acknowledging it is not feasible for them. There's a big difference between a 2-hour flight between Tennessee and Texas and 7 hours over an ocean. I'm going with you or the asshole. You moved to another continent. That doesn't automatically saddle your family with the obligation to travel long haul to see you. It's expensive and, for an older person or somebody with health difficulties, potentially challenging. I totally get that you're hurt that they didn't come. But you decided to move, and that's on you. The practical solution is to visit them as often as you'd like to visit them, and not ruminate on whether or not they are being unfair to you. For what it's worth, I don't think they are. I don't know if this is an asshole situation as much as a potential future regret situation on all sides. You need to put work into every relationship if you want to maintain those relationships, including the ones that you've been born into. Info: have you actually spoken to your family about how all of this makes you feel? Sometimes people are unaware of their behavior. It's best to bring it to their attention first to see if they'll make a change before deciding to go LC. Am I the asshole for not validating my husband's feelings? My F24 husband, M23, is upset at me because I will not validate or understand his feelings. This feels like the silliest and most bizarre thing to be writing. But he is upset because a server didn't take his empty cup away when he came over to get mine. We have a local pub here, and I've been in there more times than my husband. The usual server was in there that I had seen before, and when we got there he smiled and said hello, and I waved back. I told my husband he must have remembered me from the last time because the last time I was here and ordering food, I made a dad joke which made him and others at my table giggle. The server said he thought what I said but didn't want to embarrass himself and say it out loud, all jokes of course. When we were almost leaving, the server walked past us and was heading to a table to pick something up and noticed my glass was empty. Just to clarify, I had an empty glass, my husband had an empty glass and bottle, and there was an empty bag of crisps. He grabbed my glass, my husband's empty bottle and the packet of empty crisps but left my husband's glass. The glass was empty but there was a little amount of liquid on the bottom from where the ice had melted. My husband immediately got annoyed and said that he did that on purpose. I said he took our stuff and went to go pick up what he was originally heading over for, so maybe he didn't have hands for it. He said it's just a glass, of course he could take it too. I said maybe he thought you weren't done because of the stuff at the bottom, and he then got mad at me for defending him. I made it clear that all I was saying is we aren't sure he did it on purpose and probably didn't, but my husband said he is certain that he did. I made a point of if he was trying to single him out. Why did he take his empty bottle? To which I didn't get a response. My husband said he was done and got up to leave. We left and he was in a bad mood with me on the walk home. I tried to move past it and change the subject, and he said he didn't want to talk to me until I agreed with him that it was on purpose. I said I would not do that because I don't agree. It's the next morning now and he brought it up again and is still upset. He is saying that I should be validating his feelings. Am I the asshole? Edit. I am from the UK, he is from the USA. We have been married for 6 months and have been together for 3 years. It's not a common thing for him to be jealous, it's never been a big problem like this. Edit 2. In the comments there is another thing that explains another reason my partner could be annoyed, because I imagined this server as a character in one of my books. It was just a side character, not romantic, and I do this all the time because I lack imagination. Further explanation on this can be found below. Update. I have shown him this thread and he said he is hurt. He believes I've portrayed this incorrectly and thinks that I'm being hypocritical by needing my feelings validated by strangers online. Which, yeah, I guess I can see a little. I told him that I'm not listening to the replies insulting him, because I'm not. There are a lot. You guys are brutal. As I know it's easy to judge others online when you don't know them, but the overall consensus is that this was a silly thing to be upset over, and that's why I shouldn't agree with him on this. I've asked him to write out exactly his point of view from this situation so that I can post it here, but I've not had that and I'm not sure if I will. If I do, I will make sure to post it. Not the asshole. What a really weird thing to get all bent about. Servers not taking everything on the table at the same time happens all the time. They only have 2 hands. I'd wonder if something else isn't bothering him. Is he bothered by the fact the server remembered you? Does he think the server is interested in you? Why does he think the server did it on purpose? Because I doubt this about a glass left behind on the table. It doesn't sound like the glass was completely empty. I've seen people get bent out of shape because bar staff took away a glass with half a mouthful of beer left in it. Validating his feelings means you acknowledge he is feeling upset. So you have done that. He can feel upset for any real or imagined reason. His feelings are still valid. Agreeing that the server wronged him when you're sure he didn't is not validating your husband's feelings, it's supporting a ridiculous claim. I would have certain strong feelings about that in your situation. Not the asshole. Maybe your husband needs to go to therapy for his massive insecurities though. Not the asshole. It's a weird thing to be upset about emo. I am American and used to be a server. The server probably A. didn't have enough room to grab the glass. B. wasn't sure he was done with his drink. So he left it there just in case. C. didn't notice the glass. It is very unlikely there was some ulterior motive in leaving the glass, especially as most customers wouldn't get this upset and or suspect it was some kind of diss from leaving a glass. Am I the asshole for telling my kids they have to thank their grandfather for paying for their tuition? My father has always been an intolerant man, but he is still my father. He loves his grandchildren far more than me. I am currently his guardian. He suffers from cognitive decline. Before his decline getting worse, he informed me he wished to pay for their tuition. So I made sure to do that. So my father paid for their tuition, and the college funds we had for them covered everything else, and they get to keep the excess. I told our kids that they need to thank their grandfather and we will be visiting him to do so. He still can recall and recognize them. They were against it, they wish to have no part of his and generally think I am a poss for still having a positive relationship with my father despite his views. They talk more to their mother, I get all my updates through her. After much fighting my wife was able to convince them to come. Let us say it was a complete shit show. My children did not thank him, they yelled and ridiculed him. We had a huge fight, and they told me what else did I expect to happen. Was I in the wrong to try and force a thank you out of my kids? Should I have just left well enough alone? Thank you for the replies and information. I am going to speak with my wife, but I plan to cut them off from their grandfather's money and the money we set aside for them. I know I cannot force them to repay the money they took, but I can remove their access to the money. I will also be taking back their cars and looking into selling them. Going to stop paying their rent, and revoke their access to our joint credit cards and phone plan. More or less I am done subsidizing their lifestyle. Yes, I understand a thank you is meaningless to most people without intent. The thing is my father is suffering from cognitive decline. For better or worse, and not to sound like an ass, he will not even notice the lack of intent. He would have appreciated it. If they were willing to compromise their morals by taking the money, they could have done the same to say thank you. Probably going to stop reading at this point. I know I failed as a father and my kids are a reflection of me. I am disappointed in myself as a father. I failed to raise them better. Morbid curiosity at this point. The sum was not small. My dad was getting worse, he could no longer stay home. He wanted to leave behind a lasting legacy, so he wanted to pay for his grandkids' tuition cause he never could do that for me. So we sold the house and split the funds down the middle for the kids. They got close to $300K each. That is what I meant by saying I will ensure the money is used for their tuition. I did not use the money to pay for his care. I covered that out of my pocket. When the time came, I did inform them their grandfather set aside money for their education. I informed them they have money we have set aside for them to go to school, so they did not need to use his money. We told them you can use their grandfather's money for tuition and they could use our money for everything else, or just use our money. To the best of my knowledge, my father was not a secret KKK leader or was part of some kill squad. He just had dated and damaging views, and yes, he did vocalize his political and world views, but being as our kids stopped seeing him pretty young and he has been sick for a better part of their lives, I doubt he is even aware of their worldviews. My children are more liberally aligned, and I do understand why they feel the way they do toward him. Still, they had no reason to act the way they did. You have shitty, spoiled, entitled children. Not the asshole. Did they know he was paying their tuition prior to graduating? Like, did you let them know, your current tuition is being paid for by your grandfather? If they willingly accepted his offer and decided to take without so much as a thanks, they're spoiled brats. If you didn't inform them and all of a sudden they have to go thank someone they don't like for something they did not consent to, then it's not their job to thank him, it's your job to thank him for helping with your kids. Info. What are these supposed intolerant views? Do they include opinions on aspects of their own life? Info. But they are still taking his money? Not the asshole. However, it probably showed poor judgment to force them to go because it made their relationship worse, not better. If you suspected they would act like that, it would have been better to make them write a thank you card instead of going to see him. I think your children are entitled to their negative opinion of him, but if they feel so strongly, then they should either decline the money out of the strength of their ideals, or if they continue to accept the money, then they should be willing to thank him for it.